Hello, good morning and welcome to this weekend edition of the newspaper show right here on ET Now. I'm Cheryl D'Souza. I'll take you through the top headlines as they're in the Economic Times as well as the Times of India. So let's get going with the top headlines as they're in the Economic Times. And first up, it is Finance Ministry that's saying that India is seeing a V-shaped recovery. Vodafone Idea Board approves raising 25,000 crore rupees. OTT players pick Ombudsman model for complaints. Government panel to review latest app ban. SBI moves Supreme Court recovering dues from Anil Ambani. Goyal nudges automakers to push for lower royalty. Fintech companies explore ways to implement Loan REJIG scheme. WeWork Global buys 20% in India franchise. Indigo may not go for equity sale. Lastly, government welcomes United States investments in manufacturing and infra. All right, moving on now from the top 10 headlines. Let's move on to the market headlines that's there in the paper this morning. And first up, SBI Small Cap, no lump sum post September 7th. China allows for stronger Yuan. Moody downgrades 4 PSU Banks. Tata Sun buys 53 lakh Tata Motors DVR shares. And India records worst weekly loss in 4 months. All right, and let's shift focus onto the corporate headlines as they're in the newspaper. Rajiv Lall resigns from IDFC First Bank. You have government probes vitamin C dumping by China. Sahara Group barred from raising public deposits. And ITC CMD says mini lockdowns hurting the revival. And lastly, Prakash Javadekar says the GST cut for auto likely. All right, and those are the top headlines that's there in the Economic Times this morning. But let's shift focus and let's talk about the top story that's there in the paper. And this is what the Finance Ministry is saying, that they are saying that India is seeing a V-shaped recovery. So the Finance Ministry is pointing at a V-shaped recovery, but also saying that residual uncertainty will impact the discretionary spends. Calls for deep-seated and wide-ranging structural reforms in land, legal, labor and capital markets to reverse the slowdown have also been talked about. The Finance Ministry actually maintains that as India emerges from this crisis, it will be critical to reorient the country's policy matrix towards a calibrated reconstruction of the economy and building the resilience for an uncertain future. Some areas that actually may require specific attention includes agrarian supply chain. You also have the infrastructure, the startups, financial inclusion, skilling and healthcare. So this is what the Finance Ministry is pointing to us, that India is actually indeed seeing a V-shaped recovery. This is in the monthly economic review for August. Let me now shift focus on to Vodafone Idea. All eyes were on that particular counter as the board was had held its meeting yesterday to explore the fundraising options, and the board of the telecom giant where Vodafone Idea has approved to raising up to 25,000 crore rupees, and about 15,000 crore rupees will be raised through non-convertible debentures. My colleague Sunita Nakwal is here with all the details. Sunita, good morning. And finally, Vodafone Idea board has approved raising up to 25,000 crore rupees. What are the other details?
Vodafone Idea Board has approved fundraising, and they have given an enabling resolution to raise funds up to 25,000 crore to the company, and this is going to be a mix of equity and debt. What the board has said in their information to the exchanges is that they can raise 15,000 crore rupees via equity or equivalent, 15,000 crores via debt, which is essentially NCDs. But they are also saying that the total fundraising by both the methods cannot exceed 25,000 crore rupees. So this is essentially what they are looking at. But having said that, I must caveat here that it's an enabling resolution and it's subject to approvals. They will need first approval from the shareholders, which is slated to happen on 30th of September in the AGM. So once they get the approval, then only they can go ahead. But having said that, I must point out that Idea needs capital infusion substantially at this juncture. It's very, very crucial because their financial position is very precarious. If you look at financials at the end of 30th June 2020, they only had cash worth rupees 3,400 crore rupees, and their net debt stands at over 1 lakh crore rupees. So they are in a very, very precarious position.
All right, thank you, Sunita, for taking us through those details. And enabling resolution is what the Vodafone Idea Board has approved to raise up to 25,000 crore rupees. Let's shift focus now and let's talk about the OTT players and Netflix, Amazon Prime Video. You have Disney Hotstar, MX Player and ZEE5 are among the 15 video streaming services that have agreed to implement a universal self-regulation code. It will be overseen by an ombudsman to address the complaints related to content following months of deliberation. My colleague Chandra is here to take us through the story. Chandra, a very interesting story that's there in the page 1 of Economic Times about the OTT players actually picking up an ombudsman model for complaints. So take us through the details of what will this model follow and what all the complaints will they actually look at.
Cheryl, good morning. So this is a long pending demand from traditional players that the content that goes on some of these OTT platforms don't fall under the regular regulatory framework. And there have been discussions for a long time on how these OTT players are going to be regulated. So looks like they have chosen a universal self-regulation code. And as you mentioned, this includes 15 video streaming services, including the top players such as Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Hotstar, MX Player, and ZEE5. So they have agreed to implement a universal self-regulation code overseen by an ombudsman to address complaints, and this will be complaints related to content, and the code is expected to be implemented in the next 2 months. Now, this includes a framework for age classification, content description, as well as access control tools for online curated content providers. They also say that it has a transparent and structured grievous redressals, as well as an escalation mechanism for reporting non-compliance with guidelines. So this is an interesting model we have chosen, and this is the framework that is going to have on how to escalate complaints, how to really set age controls and other things. We, of course, have to see how this goes down with broadcasters and how it is finally executed. But this is a model chosen by OTT players. They've seen an explosive rate of growth in the last few months after the pandemic. And India is also seeing an accelerated rate of growth when it comes to internet adoption. So this is a space that we have to watch closely.
Definitely, Chandra. Thank you for taking us through the details as of now. Let's shift focus on to another story that's there on the page 1 of Economic Times, and here you go. And that is the State Bank of India has actually moved the apex court to recover dues from Anil Ambani by invoking his personal guarantee after he actually got a stay from Delhi High Court against such a move. My colleague Varun is here to take us through all the details. Good morning, Varun. And SBI has actually moved Supreme Court in order to vacate the stay for recovering dues from Anil Ambani. So what does this actually mean, and why such a move coming in from SBI?
Right, Cheryl. Good morning. So like you said, they've moved the apex court to recover dues from Anil Ambani by invoking his personal guarantee. This is post the High Court stay, which had previously gone against such a move. Now, since it was an order by the division bench of the Delhi High Court, the bank has now approached the Supreme Court for relief. So SBI, when contacted, hasn't really responded to any queries, and neither did any representatives of Anil Ambani. So SBI's plea seeking the vacation of the stay has been filed through an advocate, Sanjay Kapoor, while Ambani is being represented by advocate E.C. Agrawala. So this stay had come on August 27th. Now we'll see once we hear officially from either Anil Ambani's representatives or SBI.
All right, thank you, Varun. We'll definitely watch out for that particular case more closely. That is, SBI has moved Supreme Court against for vacating the stay on the Anil Ambani. Let's shift focus now to Indigo AGM, and Indigo may actually shelve its plan to raise money from the market through a QIP and may depend on increased sales during the upcoming festive season for meeting its financial requirements. So this is what actually the Indigo CEO spoke at the AGM. My colleague Poonam is here to take us through what else did the Indigo CEO say at the AGM. Poonam?
Well, the Indigo QIP was fairly interesting. In fact, the management stated that as sales and revenue do improve going ahead, the chances of raising funds via QIP would then stand 50-50%. In the month of August, the management had stated the plans to raise close to around 4,000 crore via QIP. And now the chances for raising funds now stand at 50-50%, because as the economy is unlocking, as various states and centre also unlocks, the revenue is likely to improve. In fact, management also mentioned that the cash burn per day now stands reduced to rupees 30 crore versus rupees 40 crore earlier. Fleet utilization as of now stands at 30-35%, but in the con call earlier, they had mentioned that the fleet utilization could improve to nearly around 60-70% by Q3. They also stated that there are no plans to hire wide-body aircraft to the fleet, as we had already seen with their peers like SpiceJet and Vistara. And they also mentioned that they would wait for the delivery of A321 XLR, which is scheduled to be arriving somewhere around first quarter of 2024. As of now, they have already taken good amount of measures to improve the liquidity position. Do know that they have very strong liquidity position and also a strong free cash flow. But as of now, there is a possibility that rather the plans for raising funds via QIP stand at 50-50%.
Thank you, Poonam, for taking us through the details of that particular story. Let's shift focus now onto a story that's there in the page 4 of Economic Times, and here you go. A government panel that was actually set up to review the ban on the 59 Chinese applications in June will also review the latest one on 118 applications, which actually include the popular gaming app PUBG. The committee will soon seek detailed comments from the companies owning these applications over the data sharing practices and other issues as well. And apart from Tencent's PUBG, which has its most users in India, the fresh ban includes applications from the stable of Chinese internet giant Baidu and Xiaomi, the biggest seller of the smartphones in India. So what else is this report actually talking about is that other banned applications also include the Camcard business card reader, WeChat reading, and Tencent Yuan. This came after the fresh border tensions between India and China. The applications were banned under Section 69A of the Information Technology Act and the provisions of the information technology, thus procedures and safeguards for blocking of access of information by public rules 2009. So this is the latest that's coming in, that the previous review panel will also study the latest Chinese applications ban. That is the review panel that was formed for 59 Chinese applications to review the ban will also review the latest 118 Chinese applications ban as well. Let's shift focus now on to WeWork, and this is a story that's there on the page 5 of Economic Times. And US-based office space provider WeWork Global has bought 20% stake in WeWork India, a fully owned subsidiary of Bengaluru-based estate developer Embassy Group, for about $100 million as the company looks to scale up its India's operations over the next 36 months. So Embassy Group has 100% rights over WeWork India, an independent entity with the right to execute WeWork's business in the country. So WeWork actually entered into the partnership with Embassy Group in 2017 and started operations in the Indian market. So this is the latest that is coming in from that particular front. So this basically the transaction has valued WeWork India business at about $500 million. So this is the latest that's coming in, that WeWork Global has bought about 20% stake in WeWork India for about $100 million. Let's shift focus now on to the food space, and it is about the MTR Food. They've bought a stake in the Eastern Condiment, so that is the latest that is coming in, and this is why is a Norwegian consumer company, Orkla. They have set to enter an agreement to acquire a majority stake in Kochi-based Eastern Condiments through a wholly owned subsidiary, MTR Foods. The purchase price values Eastern at about 2,000 crore rupees on debt and cash-free basis. This deal implies that the deal is valued at 1,356 crore rupees. That is what a source had to tell Economic Times. So after the transaction is completed, Orkla will merge Eastern into MTR, and the merged firm will be jointly owned by Orkla and Firoz and Nawaz Mehran, with an ownership of 90.01% stake and 9.99% stake respectively. That is what the company had to say. So this is a big deal brewing in the foods space, and that is Norwegian company Orkla's arm MTR Foods has picked up about 67.8% stake, majority stake in the Eastern Condiments. All right, and these are the top stories that's there in the Economic Times. Now let me shift focus and take you through the top headlines that's there in the Times of India. And first up, India's last 1 million rise in cases, fastest in the world. We have Defense Minister Rajnath Singh meets the Chinese Defense Minister. Riya Chakrabarti's brother held by NCB, but no drugs found. Government issues stricter norms for parole. Government says the question are suspended in states as well. All right, and those are the top 5 headlines that's there in the Times of India this morning. And let us now look at what the India COVID update is looking like. And the India COVID cases are rising steadily, non-stop. 80,000 is the mark that is latest that we're seeing. Over 80,000 cases are being logged in the last 24 hours in India as well. Remember that the cases are hit, India's COVID cases have hit actually 40 million. Remember, like the Times of India has also mentioned, that India's last 1 million cases has been the fastest in the world. But one thing that we need to note is the India's recovery has been also on the rise. So India's fresh infections have touched high of 87,800. Also, COVID cases in India has raced past 4 million on Friday, just 13 days after hitting the 3 million mark, even as fresh cases in the past 24 hours surged to a new high of 87,800. This was the third consecutive day of highest rise in the new infection. So India is the third country after United States and Brazil to record 4 million COVID-19 cases. Not a pretty picture when it comes to COVID cases, but definitely you have to keep a note that our India's COVID-19 recoveries are also quite high. All right, now let me shift focus on to another story that's there in the page 1 of Times of India. And in a bid to break the deadlock in the ongoing military confrontation in eastern Ladakh, India and China held their first high-level political meeting on the sidelines of the SCO Defense Ministers meeting in Moscow, Russia. In presence of the Chinese Defense Minister, Rajnath Singh said that non-aggression key to ensure the regional stability amid renewed tensions between India and China in the eastern Ladakh. The Army Chief, General Naravane, has said that the situation along the LAC is slightly tense and that precautionary deployments are being done for security reasons. And let me shift focus on to another story that's there in the page 1 of Times of India. And the Supreme Court has dismissed its review plea by the 6 opposition rule states seeking a reconsideration of the Supreme Court's earlier order that gave the nod to NEET and JEE exams. Rejecting the plea for further postponement of the exams, the Apex Court had in its August 17th order stated that life cannot be stopped and that the career of the students cannot be put in jeopardy. So that is the top story that's there in the Times of India. The Supreme Court has dismissed the plea of the 6 opposition rule states against the NEET and JEE exams. And another big development coming in the Sushant Rajput's case, and that is Riya Chakrabarti's brother Shouvik and Sushant's house manager Samuel Miranda have been arrested by the Narcotics Control Bureau in connection to the alleged drug links. Both have been charged with purchasing, selling and using cannabis, also charged for abatement and criminal conspiracies. Shouvik and Samuel Miranda have been taken for medical tests this morning before their production in court. So that's the latest coming in on that particular case. All right, and there you go, and those are the top stories that's there in the Times of India as well as the Economic Times. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the newspaper show. Thank you for watching.